Hi, I'm Amit Thakur from Mindshare Vietnam's managing partner with Mindshare, and welcome to MMA Talk Hub series. Today with me, we have Anna, Business Director with Ureka Vietnam Business. Welcome, Anna, to the show.
Thank you, Emma, for your warm welcome. It's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. We were interacting just before we started this session and you were telling me about your journey, how you have come to Ureka and the whole programmatic, that evolution of digital industry and the advertising part, right? Why don't you share with us what your journey has been until now?
Oh, of course, for sure. So it's been great fun to having a excitement, thrilling journey with Ureka for about 5 years. Before that, I was having around 3 years experience working in the marketing field, mostly focused on the trading electronic field. And after that, I have more than 2.5 years experience in MarTech, which is mostly focused on application in how to automation platform, something like that. Yeah. And it brings me all the way to the thrilling journey with Ureka for about 5 years. That can gathering all kind of knowledge that I learned so far about the data, about the platform, about the retail, everything just come into one with Ureka right now.
Nice. You mentioned some very good keywords, MarTech and programmatic, and how you use all of these, or how all of these can come together to actually benefit the brand or benefit the advertiser, right? So also the fact that at agency planning level, and now that I've been with Mindshare Vietnam for close to 5 years, what we have also been working on is how all of these tech, right, can come together from a media lens, from a creative lens, to make sure that the brands are visible to the right audience on the right platform, right? And one of the greatest evolution we feel in past few years that has been is the programmatic way of getting the brand messages served to our audiences, right? Unlike the times before that. And this programmatic evolution is fueled by how data is being used, right? And data more recently is becoming more and more segregated from macro data to micro data. So all of this is playing a very important role, right? And I'm sure at your journey, like you mentioned, each of these is something that you play around with every day. And what are your views, how programmatic has been evolving?
I could say when it comes to the terms of programmatic, like it's not a new word, but not so many people that quite get the concept it is. So let's just start with the concept. What is the programmatic first? So I could say that programmatic is basically it's just a software that allowing people to automate purchasing, optimizing, and like buying through plenty of the placement and platform, so that you're giving you a chance of like controlling transparency, everything in your campaign, so that you can have the maximum ROI, or like the impact that you want to achieve in your campaigns. So when we come to the term of programmatic, I could say that is the field of data-driven for sure. There's no way we can get away with that. And programmatic itself in the report is actually it still have a vast potential to grow in the recent year for sure. So I remember I read a report, and it have a number around 5 billion in worldwide US dollars for like ad spending in digital programmatically. So not mentioned in the Southeast Asia, it could come to 2.4 billion for the ad spending in programmatic. So I think the trend is actually leading by the global agencies just like Mindshare and the multinational company that try to bring effort to give the control, to giving the transparency power to in terms of media buying activities. So I think that there's plenty of potential here to grow and up more coming. If we understand deeply how programmatic leveraging about the data, leveraging about the way that we captivating our audience in a better way, bringing them the beneficial for themselves.
Interesting. And you shared some very interesting numbers there, and it definitely looks something that's been growing in past and has reached a significant size in terms of billions of dollars of business that we do globally and even in Vietnam, right?
Yes.
So coming closer to how, Ureka actually operates and what are the solutions that you have housed under the Eureka's set of solutions, how are they connected to programmatic? And, what kind of solutions can brands leverage to make their ads visible better to the right target audience?
Oh, I see. When we talk about Ureka, there will be three main keywords that definitely show up. The first one is programmatic, the second one is data-driven, and the third one definitely the technology. So all the products that we're solving in Ureka must make sure that we can serving it programmatically for the global agency, small agency. We can have on the solution for them. Whether it is on the mobile marketing, in the web platform, or in the application platform, everything is programmatic. The second thing is that we have the collecting every kind of data that we could, so that we can offering a more in-depth database, so that our client can optimizing their campaigns in a more efficient way. And last but not least, but also we, because the data come up with the technology, so that we can giving a solution for our client in terms of displaying ads where it is more suitable for them to enhancing the message to the client, which is similar to the concept of the retail media that I can mention later about that.
Nice. So let's spend a little more time to understand this in depth, right? And so when you say that, while a lot of us may understand programmatic, having worked through it in last so many years, but for a lot of audience who will hear this and understand from you, right, of how programmatic actually works, are there different platforms that use programmatics, or all of the platforms that we advertise on digital can be leveraged through programmatic? And the second part is, are there specific formats or types of inventory like videos or display that can be done? So why don't you share more about that?
Oh, I could say that in terms of programmatic, because there's plenty of placement, plenty of channel and platform that you can purchasing the ads. So by applying programmatic inside, the advertiser now can optimizing the campaign, choosing what kind of creative that most efficient way that capture more of the attention of the audience on the mobile, or whether it is on another kind of device, the channel, the creative. And in the world of digital for now, every penny counts, right?
Absolutely.
So we don't want to spend the money into something that not quite effective. So by the programmatic platform, we have the pinpoint of data. So based on that, we captivating what is going good, what is going in the right way, what is not really effective. So from that way, we can decide again on the strategy that we are approaching our campaign. So that bring you to a more efficient omni-channel campaign that the advertiser now have the power on hand.
So that's very important, right? The fact that we are able to now serve an ad on one of these digital platforms in a more efficient manner. And
yes,
couldn't agree more with you that, we are now looking for an impact ever before than now for every money that we're spending, right? So programmatic helps us connect to audiences across different platforms in a more efficient way. And there are ways in which different formats can be used to advertise, for the brands to advertise on those platforms, right? Moving a step next from there, and what we touched upon during our introduction is that all of this programmatic is fueled or energized by data, right? And if we were to talk more about that and try to understand how data-driven marketing is actually fueling programmatic, what things were there earlier in past few years versus what do we see today, and are there specific things that audience should know about?
Okay, so talking about, because we're saying programmatic about data, but how exactly it's working. So for example, if we have more data in terms of the target audience, how they acting, the behavior, the demographic, the interest, the lifestyle, the life state that they're having, is actually helping us to deliver the message more personalized, more relevant to the target audience. So the game right now for the programmatic, not only just based on the data, but also thanks to the AI coming into the hand, it brings you to a more complete picture of the target audience, how the message can be delivered in more precisely.
That's great. That's great.
So could you tell me more about your experience in terms of like when you onboarding the programmatic at MyShares? For sure that you have plenty of campaigns, and how is it going on right now with the media planning and the buying process when it comes to the term of programmatic?
Great question, Anna. And, I would take a lot of cues from what you shared, what we discussed about how programmatic is actually helping brands get efficiency as well as effectiveness in the way we deliver our brand messages, right? And all of this is fueled by data, right? So things about becoming more complex. The fact that consumer is now, having multi-screen experience, we are on multiple devices at the same time. And also it is equally important because more brands, more spends on the platforms, right? So how each spot can be made more impactful. And actually the fact that we leverage programmatic in the way we serve ads is a great opportunity for brands to pick and choose in real time the right set of inventories, the right set of audiences that we want to target, right? So that's one big way in which programmatic is helping us, and we leverage at media agency, especially at Mindshare. But what is interesting, and I would feel certainly that in last few years, what has strengthened the whole delivery from the Mindshare's perspective is the data-driven marketing, right? And there is a new way in which planning is being done for a lot of our advertisers and clients, which is funnel-less planning. And that is actually happening because of consumers themselves. The fact that today, very rarely consumers have a linear journey of awareness and then consideration and then conversion, right?
Yes, couldn't deny that one.
And hence it's important that maybe not every brand has to go through all that journey. How do we make it more agile? How do we make it more impactful for a brand that is primarily skewed towards a lower funnel kind of campaign, right? A lot of brands are selling on e-commerce, social commerce, who may not have a regular ad to be shown on any other platform. So how do we make sure that all of these brands still get the impact that they want? And data is playing a very, very important role. The fact that we identify and connect with a particular set of audience in the upper funnel, how do we retarget them using data in the middle funnel or lead them for conversion in the lower funnel, right? And throughout this journey, what helps us identify the right audience, target them on different platforms is through data. In fact, the interesting part is we very recently worked on analysis where we are able to create a reach curve which combine audiences on different platforms. And a lot of challenge was there for brands saying that when we plan on different platforms, we know what is the reach on each of the platforms. But is there a way to know what is the combined reach? And that really, something that we could crack with the help of data and the analysis, right? So yes, I think this is a definitely growing phenomenon, and we are in it completely. And with the help, the way partners such as Ureka, where we are able to leverage this healthy inventories on digital platform, helps us connect with the audience.
Yeah, so we are actually on it, and we, more than anybody, that understand that when it comes to the three concept, it's quite simple. But in fact, when have a chance of executing those campaigns is quite tough, right?
True.
Because it's not as easy as what we're seeing.
Perfect.
So the process of talking about the data, as you may see, because you're talking about the e-commerce platform and multiple devices that the audience using right now, it bring us to plenty of data. We are just swimming in a set of large set of data. And by that concept, I could say that the data itself right now can bring us to the bigger picture of the target audience.
Correct.
And by the bigger picture of the target audience, we need to analyzing tool because every tool have its own kind of beneficial, right?
Correct.
So what kind of tool that we're choosing, it's quite headache for me, whether it's the same for you.
It is. And that's why, the truth actually lies in testing and learning. And because in a dynamic environment that we live today, there is something that is coming new every few weeks or every few months, right? Whether it's a new platform, whether it's a new format on platform, whether it's a new capability such as programmatic, where we can serve and connect with audiences, right? And each of this requires fair amount of investment and testing to see what works and what doesn't. So the key with Mindshare has always been continuous learning through this test and learn approach, where we set and understand what are the benefits of certain new tools or technology, and then we scale it up, right? And things that did not work, we work further, either with the partner or internally to see what can be improved.
Okay, for sure. So when it comes to the data, the story never ends.
Agreed.
So and we in Ureka as we do the same concept when optimizing the campaign for the customer. So collecting, storing, analyzing, how to activating it is actually a really important phase when it comes to the data. Not only just understanding the in-depth database that it brings to us on the table after every campaign, but also how to reuse it, how to actually
Very nice.
activating it on time, not letting it go away.
Correct.
Yeah. So I think that know-how is really important when it comes to the data-driven media.
Awesome.
Yes, and in Ureka we have that kind of platform, and we know how to do that. But so proudly to say that.
So we spoke about how programmatic actually helps in bringing efficiency and effectiveness fueled by data, right? So what are some of the trends or insights learning that audience can take that you see today versus few years back, and something that can give us a glimpse of what it is in future?
Okay, a glimpse of what it is in future. That sounds big. But to me, in specific, I could say the technology improves everything a lot. And when it comes to the set of large sets of data, the AI comes in. So the AI application in terms of the mobile marketing, on the data pinpoint that you have, it can learn from it, even how large it is.
Good.
Or even in some case that the data is scarce, it can learn from it as well. So by applying the AI, it giving the marketer, the advertising right now, the bigger picture of the target audience, how is it doing right now. It offering the marketer right now to have a deeper understanding of how the audience is behaving online, but also not missing the piece of the contextual when it comes to the behavior. Because before, it's just based on the keyword mostly, or based on the cookie tracking, which is related to content management of the data as well. But when it comes to the AI comes in with the data, we can have a understanding more about how audience behaving on online, not only by keyword, but also by contextual.
That's nice. And, I just want to spend a little more time on that, analyze that. We also try and manage a portfolio of large set of brands. And a lot of these brands are not big, right? They're new brands, or these are brands created specifically for satisfying certain audience need. And that means they need to talk to that audience set in the right environment, in the right context, right? And contextual advertising, to me, can be termed differently, that we always plan for reach, right? But what is gaining importance today is relevant reach. And that relevant reach can be done best when we do contextual advertising, right? And anything that you want to share more about, any examples in recent time that you have worked with on, or interesting story that you want to share about contextual advertising per se?
So definitely, because I've been working with publishers in Vietnam, and what we see is that when it comes to the mobile online marketing, we have the keyword of the word, and you have been with Mindshare in Vietnam for so long, right? So do you speak Vietnamese?
Little bit.
Oh, okay. Okay. And could you see that the Vietnamese is a little bit like complicated in terms of the wording,
Đúng
the
rồi.
order of the word? So for example, it's just a keyword of ba ơi ăn cơm chưa, which means daddy, did you have the dinner?
Okay.
You're changing the order of the word. Ba chưa ăn cơm, it means I haven't had a dinner yet. So it's actually showing that in Vietnamese culture and in Vietnamese itself, the contextual plays an important, not only by the content on the online. You have the article that you're reading, but whether the article brings you the positive or the negative emotional, that's something you cannot decide just based on the keyword.
Correct.
And that moment is actually a really key moment that as a marketer, as an advertiser, that we look into. Because if we can capture that moment of the good place where the emotional state is good, it's better for our brand, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think I like, very beautifully the way you put the whole context of dinner and how we understand, because more so in Vietnam, where the language and the phrases can be understood in more ways than one, contextual becomes more challenging also, right? Perfect. So on that note, I want to take the discussion forward, moving from having understood how programmatic plays a role in the entire digital online world. But I know that a lot of consumers post-COVID, especially in Vietnam, started moving out. And is there an opportunity that we can connect with them, that the brands can connect with them in the offline world, right? So, the fact that programmatic is making so much impact on the online space, but I believe there is enough that programmatic can now be leveraged even for the offline space, right? And brands can actually connect with consumers leveraging programmatic technology. Why don't you share more about that?
Programmatic, not new, but based on, because this is the really dynamic, fast-changing economy, we are facing the consuming economy. We couldn't skip the concept of the retail media, I could say. So when the brands come in with a lot of platform, comes in with a lot of product, it brings us to how to deliver it more efficient way to the customer. So it comes to the retail media network right now that developing really fast. You can see that many retail stores growing day by day for now, because it is the fast consuming economy. Yeah. So we just catch it up.
Nice. And I think one trend that I've also observed, now that I've been here for a few years, is the growth in the whole modern trade space. There are new players who are opening up supermarkets. There are players who are giving experience to consumers. And I think a part of that experience also means how brand can interact at the retail space, right? And I think that's what you're talking about, of how programmatic can actually help in the retail media network, right? So what are the solutions that an advertiser or brand can leverage from the house of Ureka?
When it comes to the retail media network, it could say we have two parts of the advertising. That could be the offline part or the online part. So offline part could be a poster, could be the the screen at the house where the purchasing behavior happen at the venue.
Okay.
And the online part could be the e-commerce platform. And at Ureka, we can offering both solution for the offline and the online, whether it is the online part of the e-commerce platform or advertising the online. But also, we're not missing the part of the offline, because in the offline, where people decided whether to choose this or not, it is actually the moment of spending the money. So in that place, if you have the screen or the display and ad to where it is really surrounded by the audience by that time, it's actually more likely for the audience to remember your message.
Very nice.
Yes.
Yeah. So, Anna, the whole out-of-home space, the way it has been evolving, the fact that different formats, billboards have been there for so long, and the new LED screens, the LCD screens. In fact, one interesting thing that, very similar to the New York Square, we have the Lathan Chung street here, and there are multiple screens. Every time I visit that, I love the way it lights up, especially in the evening, right? So while those are the new things that is happening and where brands can expose their messages to the audience, but the fact that the moment of truth that happens and inside a retail outlet, right, where consumers are actually out there to shop. And if we have a way to put our brand message onto a screen or give an experience of the brand inside that, right? And to get more specific on the ways in which that can be done, why don't you share the different things that can be done inside a retail outlet and where a consumer can interact with the brand?
When it comes to the moment of truth that people choosing something, it's actually the key moment that you can deliver some trigger message to decide whether this or that. And inside the retail media, it's a place that not only you can influence one individual decision.
Correct.
It actually can influence a group of people, you know, the law of association. So people usually come to the venue with their friends, their relatives, and that where you can touch in a group of people, not only one person.
Nice.
So that's actually some of the power when we come to the retail vendor. When you come into that venue, it also a moment of selling things. So the point of sale is actually can offering you the programmatic advertising and capture, and you can measurable ROI based on whether people choose this product or that product.
So just to understand clearly, and I really like the point that you said about the fact that because we are advertising inside a retail media outlet where the consumer is going to shop and spend money, we could actually not just give out a regular brand message, but use a trigger.
Yes.
Can actually,
Yes.
It's
It's actually the brand love.
That's very nice thought, and building onto that, does that mean the way programmatic can help is to be agile in giving different formats, different ads onto the same screen,
Yes.
depending on, the period or the day, can I give different offers? Is that possible, something that we can do?
Yes, obviously. So when you come to the retail, it's actually a place that really suitable for the product like food or beverage or FMCG. And people usually choosing it like based on the moment that how they feel about that kind of product. So if they come to the place and you giving them the dynamic creative, for example, like I wish you have a good day. Do you feel enjoying today? Or like you giving some kind of message that can trigger the emotion, the good vibe that they're having with their friends. So once that happens, the purchasing behavior right now not only just about the function that the product given, but also it engaging the emotion of the audience when they using that kind of product or buying that kind of product inside a banner.
Nice.
You can have now in your hand the way of playing around of the creative, the dynamic option.
So that's great. Is there, something that you want to share, any great example that you may have done from a retail advertising space?
I could bring you to a case study that we have experienced for last that holiday. So this case is that we are lucky to have a chance to execute multiple campaigns with Heineken for several brands. So this case is for 𝐷𝐿. 𝐷𝐿 is actually a beverage brand from Heineken, and their creative concept is following loving life, that encouraging people to start loving life right now. You don't have to waiting for anything. So by that campaign, I could say that 𝐷𝐿 is actually the winner. The brand is really successful in terms of blending the brand appeal with the local flavor. So what we found out during that campaign is that they focusing on the Mekong Delta people, that where people really love singing. So by that insight, we spreading that message, loving life, we encourage the audience to singing. You know how that holiday in Vietnam, right?
True.
So instead of like singing in your house, the voice and the noise and everything could be annoying your neighborhood, so that you can come to the karaoke one, you can enjoy the singing with your relative, with your friends, but not annoying anybody. And also by that one, they really enjoy the singing. So that enjoy singing is actually enjoying the life that they're having, the key message that the 𝐷𝐿 is spreading. So we programmatically deliver that message through our thousands of karaoke screen. And right there is targeting into the southwest of Vietnam, Mekong Delta. And it's really rewarding for our team when we found out that after the campaign, there could be around 79% of the audience is natively remember the message of loving life.
Nice.
You don't have to wait to loving life. And more than 71% that people saying that they want to purchasing that 𝐷𝐿 at a time.
Having beer in Vietnam is definitely loving your life. I could agree. Okay, great. In fact, Anna, what we just discussed about how retail space can be used to communicate message to the brand. We completely align with that. And as a matter of fact, that Group M is building this capability of programmatic out of home also. And we are working with partners to see how our brands and the clients that we work with can leverage that whole space of connecting with consumers through out of home, which is a growing space again after COVID, but in a more structured way, in a more way in which we control how ads are being served programmatically, the agility of different periods of the day that we can serve a different message, right? So yes, that is something that we should look forward to, a space where both consumers get better experience of the brand and brands and advertisers have a better environment to serve their ad, right? So coming towards, concluding or closure of our session today, I would want to understand from you, what is the future looking like? And the fact that we have so many formats, we have so many different tech solution providers who come up with these formats, right? But how's the space looking for future? What are the things that as an industry we may have to look at?
Definitely when it comes to the table that we have many options, plenty of choice. It comes to the competitiveness. It comes to the moment that we have to show how effective it is. So what we're looking at, it could be tougher for the advertiser, for the brands to choose where to spend the money, what kind of format I have to focus on, whether it is video to increasing the awareness, but not also forget the measurable of the ROI, how to scale up the selling things more.
Perfect, yes.
Yes. So I could say that the market that we're looking at is actually tougher for every of us in this industry.
Okay.
But it's actually thrilling and more interesting because when it comes to us, to prove that how exactly that we can be more efficient and how could we do it better by the solution.
Nice. And, actually the fact, what you mentioned about the choices of solutions and partners and the tech is increasing, right? So while it gets complicated, I truly believe that it's always going to benefit the brand.
Yes.
It's always going to benefit the advertisers, right? Because they have so many things to choose from. And that's where I think our role becomes more important, from a media agency lens, how to choose the right set of inventories,
Yes.
how to choose the right set of format, what works, what doesn't. And the most important part, I feel, and that is something being discussed in Vietnam lately, is the fact that because we are increasing relevant reach, and that comes through contextual advertising, but the contextual advertising depends a lot on the environment in which the brand message comes, right? And how do we as an industry create a brand safe environment?
Yes.
How do we put measures in place that will help brand message deliver in the right space is something that maybe we could work on. And we definitely need the right partnership with the tech solution provider, the media agencies and the measurement industry to work together, right? And the brands can make benefit from that. Yeah. Great. I think it was a wonderful session and lovely talking to you, Anna. We learned a lot about programmatic data-driven marketing and the solutions that's increasing in the retail media space. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Emma, for having you here and working me through this interesting conversation. It has been thrilling for me to be here, a participant in this series video.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.